Nowadays, it has become fashionable to keep exotic animals, arachnids, birds, insects, reptiles, etc. as pets. The large Achatina snail is also included in this list. A large gastropod mollusk is increasingly becoming the object of interest of many fans of keeping exotic representatives of flora and fauna in their homes. Description: the Achatina snail is considered the largest mollusk of its class. It is very easy to distinguish this gastropod from other representatives of this species. Only this mollusk has the most beautiful and massive shell, which consists of several curls. In some individuals, shell sizes reach 20 centimeters, or even more, while the body length can be as much as 30 centimeters, with a weight of about half a kilogram. The body width of these snails is about 4 centimeters. The breathing process is carried out through the skin, so if you look closely, the skin is not smooth, but wrinkled with many irregularities. Small horns located on the head serve as organs of touch, while at their tips there are tiny eyes. The body is yellow-brown in color, while their lips are red. In comfortable conditions, these monsters are able to live at least 10 years, while snails grow all their lives. These mollusks are native to Africa, but they are eaten, not only on this continent. And yet, their meat is not very tasty, so restaurants practically do not buy them. Interesting facts. One African snail weighed almost 600 grams, so it was included in the Guinness Book of Records. In our area, these snails are gaining weight a little over 100 grams. These mollusks are of interest to extremely busy people, since they do not have enough time to maintain and care for pets such as cats, dogs, hamsters, etc. The Achatina snail does not require special attention to itself and does not make sounds, so a tired person can always relax without problems at any time. In addition, the snail does not spoil household items and furniture, unlike cats and dogs. Therefore, there are many advantages in order to have at home just such an annoying pet as the Achatina snail. Despite its purely static behavior, the snail can easily relieve stress here, there is nothing surprising. Historical data. East Africa is considered the birthplace of this giant snail, although after a while it appeared in the Seychelles and then gradually spread to the entire territory of Madagascar. At the beginning of the 20th century, she was already settling in India and Sri Lanka. In just 10 years, she successfully moved to Malaysia and Indochina. After appearing on the island of Taiwan, this snail began to multiply at a tremendous rate, and the locals simply did not know how to stop this process. At the same time, local residents ate the meat of these mollusks with pleasure. After the Japanese appeared in the south, they also began to prepare various dishes from these pests. Japanese farmers began to artificially breed Achatina in order to sell their meat, which cost a lot of money in Japan. Unfortunately, these mollusks did not take root in the northern provinces of Japan. Due to the fact that the conditions for the life of these pests were unsuitable here, Japan managed to avoid the widespread settlement of these huge snails. For example, India suffers quite badly from these pests, since they eat up the crops of local residents at a high speed. The Ministry of Agriculture of India has declared a red fight with this species of snails, which appeared in them at the beginning of the 20th century. Despite the fact that their homeland is Africa, here they have a natural enemy Ganapsis, due to which control over the reproduction of snails is carried out at a natural level. Despite the high invasiveness of this species, in India it is still believed that, if soup is made from these snails, then it can cope even with the last stage of tuberculosis. It is for this reason that the mollusk appeared in India, as well as in several other countries. Interesting information. The Chileans have come up with the most effective face rejuvenation cream based on this shellfish. A country like France has long been producing anti-aging cosmetics using giant snails. In general, the Brazilians in this matter went further than others, creating special means from the mucus of these mollusks, which help in the treatment of lacerations, deep cracks and ulcers. Habitat. The Achatina snail has become widespread in a number of tropical countries. Populations in the regions where sugarcane are grown are considered especially numerous, since it is a favorite delicacy of these pests. The United States banned the import of Achatina into its territory, although some experts wanted to do so. That is why US laws prohibit keeping them in the house as pets. In case of violation of the law, the person can be brought to trial, as a result of which he faces a term of up to 5 years in prison or a fine of $5,000. The reason for the emergence of such a law was the fact that one boy living in Hawaii decided to come to visit his grandmother, who lived in Miami. At the same time, he took several snails with him and released them in his grandmother's garden. The snails began to multiply at such a rate that soon began to destroy crops in Miami. The Florida authorities have spent a lot of money and several years to ensure that not a single Achatina snail remains in the state. It's important to know. In our territories, characterized by a more severe climate, Achatina snails will not survive. Therefore, many keep them in artificial conditions, creating coziness and comfort for them, especially since these pets do not require a lot of time and money. Maintenance and care. Since Achatina are thermophilic creatures, they must be kept in warm aquariums. To keep one snail, you must have a container with a capacity of up to 10 liters. For such purposes, terrariums with lids are more suitable, since the mollusk can easily escape. In this case, the lid should have holes for ventilation or make sure that the lid does not fit snugly against the base. As a last resort, you can simply move it to the side, leaving a small gap. The bottom of the terrarium should be covered with a special substrate. Mollusks love water, so a saucer of water must be present. It is also necessary not to forget that snails simply adore water procedures, so it is advisable to have something like a small bath. Its design should be such that water does not pour out of it, creating dirt around it. Many people think that normal room temperature is suitable for snails, although the conditions in a person's dwelling are not always suitable for snails. To this end, it is necessary to consider how to heat the terrarium. Maintaining an optimal temperature is the key to the health of pets. It is also necessary to monitor the humidity of their home. With normal humidity, the snail crawls around the terrarium during the daytime, and with the onset of darkness it buries itself in the ground and hides in its shell. If the humidity is too high, then the snail is closer to the cover of the terrarium, and if it is too low, then it constantly burrows into the ground. The entire snail dwelling must be thoroughly washed once a week. In this case, it is necessary to take care of the moisture by sprinkling the soil with water. If the snail has laid eggs and they are needed to produce offspring, it is not necessary to wash the cage, since they need the temperature and humidity conditions to be at the same level. Proper nutrition. Feeding the Achatina snail is nothing special as its diet consists of a variety of greens, fruits and vegetables. Interestingly, in their homeland, their diet also included meat. It is very important that the food is varied, which will teach the pet to eat everything that is given to him. If they are constantly offered their favorite food, which is green salad and fresh cucumbers, then over time they will simply begin to refuse other foods. Small snails need to be given chopped food, while adults can easily handle large chunks of food. Small snails should not be fed ripe bananas, apricots and peaches, as they bite into them almost completely and can suffocate. For the smallest, it is better to give mashed carrots or apples. After a while, you can start feeding with fresh herbs and salad. In general, the following are good food for snails: watermelons, bananas, figs, grapes, strawberries, cherries, plums, apples of various varieties, kiwi and avocado. Cucumbers, bell peppers, spinach, carrots, cabbage, potatoes, zucchini, pumpkin. Lentils, peas, beans. All kinds of cereals, white bread soaked in water, rye bread. Children food. Various herbs and plants, elderberry and chamomile inflorescences. Spring color of fruit trees. Minced meat, boiled chicken. Special feed. Sour milk, unsweetened products. It's important to know. You cannot give inflorescences and plants that grow near highways, near garbage dumps, near factories and other places that are not ecologically clean. Before giving them such raw materials, it is better to wash it under the tap. Despite the fact that sugarcane is the favorite food of these snails, it is strictly forbidden to give them sweets, and even more so salty, spicy and smoked food. It is very important that the diet consists of foods rich in calcium. The effect of calcium on the development of snails. Since the snail has a shell, it is necessary that the food contains a sufficient amount of calcium, which is necessary for the strengthening and development of the shell. If there is not enough calcium, then the shell will become softer every day and it will cease to perform its protective functions. In addition, it can deform into irregular shapes. All internal organs of the mollusk are closely connected with the shell, therefore any damage to it leads to negative consequences and sometimes to the death of the animal. Therefore, it is very important that the snail consumes as many calcium-containing foods as possible. Eggshells are suitable as such products, in combination with various cereals. In fact, this is the same compound feed, but only for feeding snails kept at home. The composition of the feed includes a mixture of cereals, with wheat bran, gamrus, eggshells, biovetin, as well as food for aquarium fish. If you feed snails with a similar composition daily, then they will grow and develop correctly. Such compound feed will not interfere with shellfish in order to recuperate after laying eggs. Reproduction of Achatina snails. The Achatina snails represent individuals of hermaphrodites, therefore, each individual has both female and male genitals. To have offspring, it is enough to take 2 snails, ready for fertilization. They undergo internal fertilization, while both snails take part in the laying of eggs. The mating process can be called unique. When two adults are pressed against each other with their souls, an amazing process of energy exchange of needles begins, which are located in a special bag. In order for the needle to crawl out of the penis, the snail needs to tighten its muscles strongly. Such needles in snails can have a certain size each time. Mollusks differ in that they have a rather complex reproductive system. From one individual to another, spermatozoa arrive too slowly, so the fertilization process is quite long. They can carry fertilized eggs for just as long until they develop properly. Only after that does it release small snails into the ground. In order for Achatina snails to breed regularly, special conditions must be created for them. If the terrarium is unsanitary, then they are unlikely to do it. Therefore, their home should be constantly kept clean, including the soil. There are times when the separated adult mollusks from other mollusks immediately began to multiply. At the same time, for a long time, being in the company of other individuals, they carried fertilized eggs in themselves. Adults can lay up to 300 eggs at a time, while generally they lay about 150 eggs. There are times when snails made several clutches in different places of the terrarium, although such phenomena are rare. As a rule, the snail lays all of its eggs in the same comfortable place. After some time, maximum 1 month, very small weak creatures appear from the eggs. The first time they are in the ground, while they eat their eggshells, getting the first portion of calcium. After about 2 days, they begin to appear on the surface of the soil. After that, it is better to plant them in a separate container or return their parent to their original place. Giant snails, in their leisurely and uniqueness of appearance, exude nobility. Moreover, they are somewhat reminiscent of unearthly creatures. Thanks to such characteristics, many more and more desire to have this exotic creature at home. The main thing is that this mollusk does not require excessive care and attention. Conclusion. The Achatina snail, although it personifies an absolutely harmless creature, is still considered a rather dangerous creature if you neglect a number of rules, especially when buying it. It should not be forgotten that the snail is a tropical zone, so it can be infected with both parasites and dangerous ailments. When buying, you must get complete and comprehensive information about the origin of the snail. Unfortunately, not everyone who practices breeding such mollusks can provide such information, so you need to contact only trusted people who are responsible for their activities. Naturally, it is better to purchase such a creature at a pet store, then the risk of suffering from a snail is minimized. Of course, keeping a living creature in the house is the ultimate dream of everyone, and even more so for children. Since snails require minimal attention, the entire maintenance process can be assigned to children. These cute creatures do not bite and feel great in the hands of a person. It is impossible even to imagine that the size of a snail reaches the size of a human palm. Thus, it is possible to teach children from childhood so that they take care of our smaller brothers. You look, some of them will grow up, learn and become a zoologist, and it doesn't matter with what bias.